This is WWE superstar Drew McIntyre, and you're listening to the WWE Podcast.
The champ is
the one that everybody wants, me.
Becky Lynch is going to WrestleMania. Claymore!
Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass. This is my iron. You're going to acknowledge me.
Welcome to the WWE Podcast, everybody. It is Sunday, November 13th, 2022. We're going to go over everything that happened this week in WWE. If this is your first time joining us, thank you. If you're a longtime listener, I appreciate your support, and we are continuing to grow, and it's because of you guys. So if you want to help this show grow, give us a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts. That is one of the best ways to do it. Or at Patreon, at patreon.com/WWE Podcast. Or, we have a website, WWEpodcast.com. All right, let's jump into everything that happened this week in WWE. We saw a return in a tag team that I thought was all but dead until those vignettes started running again. And that is the Viking Raiders. And I know this is not a spot that normally I would choose to first start off the show, but the Viking Raiders, while they haven't totally changed their gimmick, they've actually dove deeper into it. And the most important piece of this is not just them being more vicious, right? It's that they have added Sarah Logan to this. Probably her most valuable role she's ever had. I mean, she is instantly more interesting now, without speaking a word, than she ever was with Liv Morgan and Ruby Riott. Let me just say that. The Riott Squad, she was the third wheel. She was like the fourth wheel in a 3-person group, if that's possible. And she now feels important. And it continues with the Triple H theme of not just creating factions and focusing on tag teams, but also the makeup of those teams. And what I mean by that is pairing women with men. You see Hit Row back, right? They were one of the first. They came like a month or two ago. They weren't one of the first hires, but Hit Row coming back. B-Fab with them is a nice addition. You balance that now with Sarah Logan and the Viking Raiders. You have, of course, Rhea Ripley and the Judgment Day. Beth Phoenix, although she's not in a faction, with Edge. So you have these just cross-gender factions and now tag teams that I think is a great addition, a welcome addition. And Sarah Logan, again, hasn't said much, but maybe that'll come with time. I like what they did coming out, destroying Hit Row, destroying B-Fab. She was going to go one-on-one with Zelina Vega, and that ended up in just the Viking Raiders coming out to their new serious music. Okay, I mean it's not this whole raid, trying to get people to catch on to the raid thing, which never caught on, and at times was embarrassing. Like when you're the only one doing your gimmick and doing your hand motion, and no one in the crowd is, and you've tried for like a year, it's just embarrassing at that point. So having them come out just being these nasty primal kind of cavemen and now women it's a nice gimmick. I'm a bit fearful on the microphone how these three are gonna fare. None of them are exactly known for cutting great promos. If they have, I haven't heard one yet. And that could be a shortfall that they may want to stay away from. I would adopt the philosophy of less is more with them on the microphone. I really don't think it'd be beneficial for them to cut some kind of long-form promo. But that said, their music is nice. Diving back into the viciousness of the Viking Raiders and who and what they are, adding Sarah Logan. It's just a nice way to add depth to a tag division that always needs depth. And have a new matchup in Hit Row versus the Viking Raiders. So didn't think I'd start there, but that was the first thing that came to my mind was this development on SmackDown. Now, I also want to talk about Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler, because this team, this pairing so far, again, it's a short sample size, a small sample size, but right now, I really like it. I think that the pairing of Shayna Baszler and Ronda, eventually it will break down and it'll be Shayna versus Ronda at some point. But for the time being, this little formation of a team is nice. It continues to solidify Ronda Rousey as a heel, with her heavy Shayna Baszler doing her dirty work while Ronda mouths off. And we saw that this week with Shotzi, who won the women's, was it a six-pack challenge that saw Lacey Evans, she came out of the retirement, I guess, Liv Morgan, Sonya Deville, Raquel Rodriguez, and Xia Li. And really, Shotzi is the only one that could have won this. Because when you look at it, Lacey Evans hasn't exactly been doing much of anything. She was a babyface that turned heel and then disappeared, so she doesn't exactly have any momentum behind her. Liv Morgan already had her chance and lost it. Sonya Deville is a heel. You don't want heel on heel. Raquel Rodriguez already had her shot, and she's a little bit young, at least young in terms of professional career, to be able to compete against Ronda. We already saw that match about a month or two ago on SmackDown. And then Xia Li, again, has nearly no momentum behind her either. So Shotzi is to me, the reasonable and the correct opponent for Ronda Rousey, because Shotzi hasn't really got an opportunity yet. They continue to elevate her. And I think that while Shotzi has zero chance of beating Ronda, the goal here is to try to elevate Shotzi. And back to the match, though, I think this is a decent match. It favored, again, Shotzi, but when you look at it, you could have made a case for Raquel Rodriguez, who I think was a close second. They continue to showcase Raquel Rodriguez in a great light, and not having, obviously Raquel take the pinfall made a lot of sense, and Shotzi did. And again, I thought this match was fine. I thought it was actually well done, other than the end that ended in a womp, 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 because of the botched table spot, of which Raquel Rodriguez was supposed to go through after Liv Morgan jumped off of the barricade by the announce desk, and Raquel was supposed to go through the table, and they were going to lay there outside the ring while Shotzi beat Evans, and that didn't happen because Raquel missed the table, or the table was too far away. She didn't want to crack her head on it. That's smart, right? So you just kind of fall. But it was a missed spot, and it made me feel like I needed to see someone go through a table. Usually when they have a table break, that a table that doesn't break, or a table spot that doesn't work out quite right, they find a way to just force it to break, right? They go back to it and just do something simple to put somebody through a table. But in this case, they didn't, and the reason they didn't is because they knew it was part of the finish, and it would mess up the timing of the finish. So we're left with an unbroken table. I feel cheated. But, all right. So Shotzi wins and then gets mouthed off to backstage by Shayna Baszler, who says that, basically, what you really won? You won a broken arm. You won a snapped ankle. It's a pretty good line. And I like Shayna Baszler is I think, an underrated promo. And we haven't seen this side of Shayna in a long time, at least consistently. They really just euthanized her. Oh, maybe euthanized is a little strong. Castrated. I don't know if that's a great one either, but you get the gist. They basically took what made Shayna Baszler away from her for a long time, especially in the tag team with Nia Jax. While they added value to the women's tag titles, I don't think that's the best use of Shayna, and they brought her back briefly to basically break a couple of women's arms that they knew they were going to fire. I think it was Eva Marie and Nia Jax, and then she went away again. Like, Shayna Baszler has been in and out of relevancy for quite some time, and it seems like this is going to be one that has some staying power. So I think that Shotzi and Ronda, or rather Shotzi and Shayna next week, is going to be a fun matchup. One that'll probably see Shotzi beat Shayna, and then Ronda will come in and attack Shotzi immediately after, putting heat back on herself. So that's probably what's going to happen. You can't have Shotzi lose to her crony. You got to have Shotzi beat the crony, and then have Ronda come in and build some more heat for herself. So that'll be probably the outcome of next week. But again, I like also the theme that Triple H has been running about giving us matches ahead of time for next week. I think a lot of time Vince didn't do that because he knew that when he got to SmackDown or Raw that day, that depending on how he feels that particular moment, things may change. And Triple H seems to have a little bit more of a steady message to fans that you're going to get a preview of next week's show in the show that you're watching now. And I like that. Now, anyway, so back to Shotzi. We had Shotzi have some strong words for Ronda Rousey about how she's going to show everyone that, shock the world, shock her, shock Ronda. And then we had Shayna say that you got some pretty strong words for Ronda. Why don't you say them to her face? And she turns around to see Ronda there. But then as she turns around, Shayna puts Shotzi in the Karafuda clutch, and then they both mouth off, and that was the end of the segment. Now, I'm not exactly the biggest Shotzi fan. I think the tank is the worst part of anything that she does, because I think it's childish. I think it's unnecessary. I know she's trying to add something different and gimmicky and just stand out. Okay, but this tank shoots Nerf guns. That's all you need to know about this tank. This isn't Rusev at WrestleMania 29 or whatever it was when he faced John Cena and he came out in an actual tank. No, this is like go to, your local Toys R Us, if they're not already shut down where you are, and pick up a Power Wheels and stick a couple of Nerf guns on it, and that's what this is. It's an overgrown Power Wheels device, and it's ridiculous. So, not a fan of that. That's my own personal taste. Of course, if you like that stuff, that's wonderful. That's how I feel about it. But in the ring, I think Shotzi's, from what I've seen, foundationally sound. She does have a nice aggressiveness to her. She does look different. So there is that. But all right, let's get on to Bray Wyatt and the segment with LA Knight. I thought this was nicely done. LA Knight comes out and he's being interviewed. And as he's being interviewed, I think it was Sarah Schreiber, possibly, who was being distracted by the Bray Wyatt symbol, the upside-down moth-looking symbol. And eventually LA Knight got annoyed with her and said, what is so important? Why is this more important than what you're doing right now and talking to me? And he does see the Bray Wyatt symbol, says, get this trash off my TV. This is not his time, it's mine. As he turns around, Bray Wyatt immediately appears, seemingly, as many people are interpreting it and have been told to me, as some kind of recruiting process, saying that, I see that anger inside of you, and it's inside of me as well, and I can't pretend that everything I've done in the past I'm not proud of. And basically saying that, are you willing to go as far as you need to? Something along those lines, basically asking, will you join me? And I guess you could interpret it like that. And LA Knight turns him down. He insults Bray Wyatt, telling him to take his puppets and shove them wherever he wants. And Bray Wyatt gives LA Knight a headbutt. And then he recovers from the headbutt and looks for Bray Wyatt, but he's nowhere to be found. So I don't know if I would imagine this is going to continue as kind of like an introductory program for Bray before he gets the much more important opponents down the line. I'm thinking Roman Reigns front and center. But for now, I think that LA Knight's a nice stop. It gives some rub to LA Knight for those that aren't familiar with him. And it also, I think, gives something Bray to do beyond just talking and being interrupted by that mask. I think we need a break from that. People are intrigued with every word that he says, but getting ahead of the complaints of things feeling mundane and Bray's coming out and doing this or cutting a promo and you know what he's going to do. He's going to get interrupted by whoever's behind the mask. That's not what happened this week. It's just a little bit more straightforward, a little bit more Bray Wyatt involved with an actual talent. That's a good thing. So we'll see. We'll see what formulates from this. But it seems as if Bray's on some kind of recruiting mission. And maybe anytime anyone sees that moth symbol, it could symbolize Bray Wyatt about to appear and trying to recruit. We'll see. All right. Let's see here. Gunther told Ricochet he hopes he wins the World Cup so that he can once again mop the floor with Ricochet. And that's exactly what would happen. I mean, is anyone really expecting at all Ricochet to be a serious contender for this matchup? It's a joke. An absolute joke, right? Ricochet has zero chance. And when I say zero, I mean zero chance of winning this match, winning this tournament. And I don't see it. Now, babyface, he is a babyface, that he does have that going for him, but we've seen this play out before. And Gunther destroyed him. So I don't think this is a good pairing at all. But it was nice to see Gunther on the show and for him to just kind of tell Ricochet, you know what, I hope you win. I want to destroy you once again. I want to humiliate you once again. So, all right, let's continue. The SmackDown World Cup was introduced, and here's what I liked about it. Well, let me say, at first I was a bit concerned because when I saw that, okay, they're doing a SmackDown World Cup, it's a tournament. I like tournaments. They don't do a whole lot of them, and that was good, but I saw the trophy and I'm like, oh God. It's like winning King of the Ring or winning the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. You know, it's just, it doesn't hold a whole lot of substance in the victory other than a piece of plastic and metal that you can showcase that you won. But the prize for this was not just the trophy, but also the number one contendership for the Intercontinental title. And I like that. So again, something Vince would have never done. That at least it's a change from certainly I think what Vince would have offered, because he likes to do these kind of meaningless, menial prizes, right? Like play stupid games, win stupid prizes. Isn't that the term, I believe? But Triple H added that stipulation. He added something real. In other words, he didn't just add these kind of, arcade prizes. So that was a really nice touch, and I appreciate that. So the first match we saw was Braun Strowman versus Jinder Mahal. And we got Braun Strowman beating Mahal here fairly quickly, fairly easily. And Mahal, before the match, ran his mouth and how he's the greatest WWE champion in history. And, he's back. And then Braun Strowman came out and then floored him. I mean, like it was very one-sided in this match. So, you'd imagine that Braun Strowman is the probable odds-on favorite. Now you have Sami Zayn in there, of course, and some others, but Braun Strowman seems to be the odds-on favorite to win this. Braun Strowman versus Gunther would be, that's a fun match to think about for a lot of different reasons. But I don't know. Let me know what you guys think about that. The matchup itself, again, was a squash. Nothing really to write home about. And as I was watching this match, and I was thinking about the comments that were made about how he and Omos had a 47-star match and how he doesn't have to flippy-floppy and fly and all that. How good does Braun Strowman think he really is? I mean, I would totally agree that not every match needs to be a gymnastics competition and every match needs to feel the same. In fact, I feel like that's a drawback of today's professional wrestling is like everyone seems to have the same movesets and same feeling. It's just change the faces and change the names, but you essentially have the same type of match because everyone's been trained to the same place, which is also kind of a downside. But Braun Strowman, how good do you think you are, Braun? I mean, how good exactly do you think you are? Because I would argue that he's lacking in a couple of key areas. One of those key areas is promo. He's not a great promo. He speaks in his big monster voice. I think in ring, no doubt. I think he's better than he should be for his size. Unquestionable. But that's not where things end. Okay? His look and his size are really what he thinks should carry him to the main event. And that's not the case. That's not nearly the case for pro wrestling. That's not how you become successful in pro wrestling. It can help you be a kind of an attraction and get people to look at you, but ultimately you're going to have to deliver on personality and promo. And right now, Braun Strowman, just as has been his entire career, I don't think are connecting with fans on that level. That's just me. Okay, let's continue on. And we also got another SmackDown World Cup match. Santos Escobar takes on Shinsuke Nakamura. He beat Nakamura with a Phantom Driver. And so Santos Escobar beats Shinsuke and advances. That was a surprise. I actually thought Shinsuke was going to win this, but given that Santos is in that new Familia group, you kind of need to get them some momentum and some heat. So I guess that's how we do it. All right, let's see. I think that covers it, other than the beginning of the show that saw the 426-minute match between the Usos and the New Day for the Undisputed Tag Team Championship. This match was, I've actually seen better from them, but that's not me crapping on the match. This is me just observing that they have been in some classics together. And this one wasn't a classic by any means, but fundamentally sound nonetheless. Both of them kicking out of each other's finish was fun. I can't really complain. If you've seen an Uso New Day match, you've kind of seen them all. I thought this was, again, on the upper end of their performances, but ultimately the Usos retain. And they should. The Usos should retain. There's no reason for the New Day to break the streak, protect their record for what? Right? The Usos should and will become the longest reigning WWE Tag Team Champions in history. Absolutely. No doubt. All right. So we also got the Bloodline coming out at the end. And the Bloodline coming out at the end, Roman Reigns talking about how, I know it's hard for you to be my cousins, talking to Jimmy and Jay. And he was about to say something. And he is interrupted by the Brawling Brutes. That wasn't exactly something that was worth to me, not having Roman Reigns give us some kind of definitive answer on exactly what was he going to say to his cousins. I'm interested in that. The crowd was they were really in support of Roman Reigns tonight in Indianapolis, until Paul Heyman got on the mic and said he came to this hellhole of Indianapolis. People got really offended by that. But outside of that, I think that generally this is a babyface group. Now, Sami Zayn wasn't there this week. He'll be back next week as part of his first round tournament competition. But after Ridge Holland and Butch got essentially no reaction coming out, because people are like, okay, we like you, but what are you doing here, man? We want to hear what Roman has to say. That's how I think most fans felt. We then got Sheamus returning. Sheamus returned with his quote-unquote broken arm that he suffered several weeks back from Roman Reigns. And now he's back. He's back backing up his group. The group initially gets beat down by the Bloodline, and then cue Drew McIntyre's music, who ends up evening the odds, and this whole feud going 4-on-4. And if you remember, the War Games part of Survivor Series was advertised as 5-on-5. So that means you're going to have, likely, while this has not been announced, 4 people from the Bloodline, which is all of them. And then you're going to have the Brawling Brutes and Drew McIntyre. But who's the 5th on their part? and who's the fifth on the Bloodlines end? You would imagine Sami Zayn would be the fifth, completing the Bloodline as a whole unit. And then I don't know who you put on the other side. Who do you put with McIntyre, Sheamus, and Ridge Holland and Butch? I don't know. I mean, as I'm looking at the SmackDown roster, boy, I don't know. I'm literally scrolling through it right now. Madcap Moss? I mean, I don't know. I mean, barring somebody coming over from Raw, Braun Strowman, I don't see a real... No, I mean, if he's involved in the World Cup, that's not going to happen. I don't know. That's really the only one I have. Madcap Moss is out there as a possibility. Of course, a returning Big E. But the problem with that is, why would Big E team with somebody that broke his neck in Ridge Holland? Doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So, no doubt about it, there's going to be an interesting selection there made for the opposing team for this 5-on-5 matchup with the Bloodline. All right, let's move over to the Raw side of things. As Austin Theory fails to cash in on Seth Rollins, and is that surprising? Yes and no. Austin Theory is a guy that I think most of us look at and we kind of see and understand why Vince chose him as his next hand-picked big star, because he is a good-looking dude. He has a nice physique. That's like number one in Vince's book. And he can cut good promos better than he should be able to. And he's really good in the ring. And he's kind of checks all the boxes. But his cash-in failing, I think, was the right move. But not just failing being the right move. Failing against a championship that's not the top belt. Because that way it's a lower profile loss. If Theory was to have done this against Roman Reigns and lost there, I think that would have been a bigger mistake, because you would have had Theory, a guy you're trying to build, lose on a bigger stage. So I think that this is great. Theory is no longer Mr. Money in the Bank. We can move the hell on. He's no longer this looming shadow, this looming possibility of the guy to cash in, the one to be able to take Roman out. He's not going to sneak in anymore. This is no longer a possibility. So we can all rest easy that Austin Theory is no longer involved. But what else happened on Raw? We did get the Bloodline defeating New Day and Matt Riddle. Baron Corbin defeating Cedric Alexander. Otis taking out Elias. Austin Theory, as we said earlier, lost his U.S. title shot or title matchup, but also did beat Shelton Benjamin. And then The Miz beats Johnny Gargano. And this match I remember being... I say I remember because it feels like it was a long time ago, but it was a longer match than I ever anticipated it being, of having him, Miz and Gargano, in a lengthy match that had an okay build to it, with Gargano blowing the whistle on The Miz with video proof of the claim that The Miz was paying Dexter Lumis to stalk him to make him appear as a bigger star than he is. Stopped paying Dexter Lumis, and then Dexter actually started stalking him for real. And Miz and Gargano, I think, are having a nice little side program. You know, it's nothing that I think we should be all dropping everything we're doing to watch. But I'm kind of ready for it to be over. So hopefully this whole thing ends at Survivor Series and we don't have to deal with it again. Bobby Lashley, though, did get angry, and he took out Austin Theory. He took out Seth Rollins. So I would imagine that Bobby Lashley, Theory, and Rollins are involved in a triple threat at Survivor Series. I think that's a likely scenario for sure. There is speculation of Bobby making Bobby actually heel. And I think there's a case to be made for that. Now, look, Bobby Lashley isn't exactly Stone Cold Steve Austin, right? So fans feel, I think, when you hear the reaction for Bobby, it's never overwhelmingly positive where people feel like they're just spewing out love for him. It's kind of like, oh, cool, Bobby Lashley, we respect this guy, big dude, been here a while, paid his dues, good guy, right? But it's never this kind of enamoration, if that a word, or this just complete connection with the fans. It always feels kind of just superficial with Bobby. So for him to do this and attack Seth, who I think cut a nice babyface promo, by the way, and his music, his entrance music, maybe has single-handedly turned him babyface. But for Bobby to attack both of these guys, while he did lose to Seth and lost his U.S. title because of Seth, it still felt unwarranted and it still felt kind of heelish. So we'll see what the follow-up is. The follow-up here on Monday is going to be key in how fans react to Bobby. Because if they react, or rather, not just how they react, but also what WWE does with creative here, to see if they continue to push him down this path, or if they try to steer the ship and correct the ship and continue down the babyface Bobby Lashley road. So we will see there. We do have, let's see here, the War Games match here for the women. Now, right now, there are a few spots open here for Bianca Belair and Alexa Bliss and Asuka taking on Bayley, Io Sky, Dakota Kai, and Nikki Cross. There are 2 spots available on the women's side of War Games. And as I switch over here to the Raw roster, my God, I can't speak tonight, guys. The Raw roster, I'm looking at who could possibly join them. And I mean, I see Carmella's out for not good reasons. If you guys haven't heard, I'm not even going to get into it. But let's see. I mean, Doudrop, no, she's injured. Mia Yim is involved with the OC. Maurice is not going to join because she's with The Miz. I really don't know. I mean, seriously. Becky Lynch? Could Becky Lynch possibly be that final member? I don't know. It's in the realm, it's in the universe of possibility. I don't know. I mean, they got to fill 2 more spots, so I don't see an available person. I mean, you could have, Dana Brooke. That's not exactly. You might as well just leave the spot vacant if Dana Brooke's on it. Yeah, so, and one other thing, as I'm looking at this roster, where the hell is Kevin Owens? They got to be storing him away for a rainy day for something. You know, he was on TV consistently over the last couple of months, disappeared like 4 weeks ago. And I really don't know where he went. I don't think it's because of injury, but I was excited that he was there every week, cutting promos with the likes of Roman Reigns and Sami Zayn and Drew McIntyre. So I would imagine they just took him off because they didn't want to just have him floundering and put him in something solid. But right now, he's kind of the guy that's floating around. Now, here's somebody they could stick on the Drew McIntyre and Brawling Brutes team with Sheamus. How about Kevin Owens? Kevin Owens. Think about that. Sami Zayn on the other side. Why not? Just announce that a SmackDown or a Raw superstar is going to fill that spot. And how about Kevin Owens? I love it. Not going to lie. All right. What else happened here quickly on Monday Night Raw? We did get, What else? I already talked about the cash-in, the U.S. title match. Yeah, so I think that pretty much covers it. Since I have another minute or so, I want to go over any news that's coming out right now. So apparently, Rey Mysterio's dealing with an injury, and it's due to this is a quote unspecified injury, according to a new report from the Wrestling Observer, Dave Meltzer, and Mustafa Ali is going to be the one replacing him in the SmackDown World Cup. So it says that Meltzer noted that the injury is not believed to be serious. It's either an ankle or a foot. So that's a good thing if you're a Rey Mysterio fan. But that is the reason that he has suddenly disappeared. He's dealing with a ankle or foot injury. So hopefully they get him right and the ship steered there, because I need to see Dominic and Rey. I mean, that match has got to happen, right, for WrestleMania. So let's see. MJF is set to return to programming. He's going to be on the upcoming November 16th edition of Dynamite, which is the go-home show ahead of Full Gear. So that's a thing if you're interested in MJF on the AEW side of things. Let's see. I don't see anything else pressing. I don't see... So here, the last story here. This is according to Wrestling Inc. Tony Khan confirms major AEW signing. This, I'm trying to see who it is. Former Ring of Honor World Champion Bandito is now All Elite. So if you know who that is, then you're excited. If you don't know. So I guess that's that kind of is where I will conclude things. But let's see here. I think, yeah, I'm pretty much good to go here, guys. I don't want to keep you and just ramble, but I got to get people on here for the weekend review. These shows used to be like an hour and a half long, but maybe I should do that next time. Well, that'll conclude the weekend review, everybody. A little bit shorter than normal, I know, but we have a great week coming up for you. We have an AEW Full Gear show coming up this week, as AEW's Full Gear pay-per-view does actually happen this week. So we will have our AEW host there, and Travis Hughes. We'll also have tomorrow a brand new current state of WWE with Anthony DeMarco. And then Tuesday's your Raw review. Wednesday is the mailbag. And then that's where things will go for this week. And Thursday, of course, we will have your maybe your AEW review show, but also Friday, brand new retro show. Saturday is the SmackDown review show, and then back to weekend review. So if you haven't joined us here today, guys, or if you haven't joined us before, we drop a show nearly every day, at least every other day. You'll see a brand new episode of this podcast in your feed. And I really would like to encourage you, though, if you haven't joined us before and you want to go ad-free, you've already heard a few ads throughout the show. You can do that at patreon.com/WWE podcast. That is where you get your ad-free experience for $1 a month. Of course, the higher you go up in tier, the more benefits you get. But that is that's really where you want to go. And I would like to give a shout out to our latest patron who joined us just this week, and that is Andrew S. Andrew S., welcome aboard, buddy. I hope you enjoy your ad-free content. All right, that pretty much does it for me tonight, guys. I really do appreciate all the support, and as always, I'll talk to you next time.
Thanks for listening to the WWE Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss a show, or head to WWEpodcast.com. And for all of these shows ad-free, head over to patreon.com/WWE Podcast. Until then, we'll see you next time.